Welcome, welcome to the Legacy Intention series here with the WELLth Movement. I'm Dr. Stephen Hobbs, and I am the founder of the WELLth Movement. And today I have Suzanne with me. If you would be so kind as to share your full name and what you're up to.
Absolutely. So my name's Suzanne Heaton, and I live, work, and play in the traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, which is the northwest area of Calgary, Alberta. And my company is called Motivated by Nature, and I'm a huge advocate for people reconnecting with nature so that not only can they make themselves better, but they will also make the environment better by being mindful when they get outdoors in nature.
And what you do is you have something that happens every month.
Yes, I
Do you
do.
want to just chat about that a little?
Absolutely. So it's a monthly online WELLth About Nature challenge. And what happens is a pre-survey happens before the first of the month. So people can see where their health level is at, as well as their connection with nature. And then each day they get out their door and they look for the prompt of the day. So think of it as an adult scavenger hunt. And what's interesting is people say that they've seen things that they've walked by a million times before and never taken notice of. And in the challenge, all of a sudden they become aware because they're looking for it. And so with the prompts, what they do is they take a picture or just share a comment on the platform or take a video of it, and they get points. It's gamified. So I have a point system in place, and the more you play, the more points that you get. So the more that you share with one another on the platform, the more points that you get. And I have different sponsors each month. And what's really cool is this can be done all over the world. I've got people on it right now from Australia, New Zealand, the USA, and 3 from Canada. And it's magnificent to see because we're in the Northern Hemisphere here and they're in the Southern Hemisphere. We're going into our fall, they're going into their spring. So just seeing the difference on that alone, let alone all the difference in the flora and fauna that they have, it's incredible. And one other thing too is New Zealand and parts of Australia are currently in the middle of lockdown status there with COVID, and this challenge is helping them to get through that really difficult time of isolation. So I love what nature can do for that.
Yes. And I live in a similar area and share the Blackfoot as well. And in the trees that are around me over the last number of months, I have done lots and lots of walks as well. So I truly understand that storyline that you're bringing forward. And again, I would encourage everyone to get involved with what Suzanne's doing. I think it's just extraordinary, and go from that perspective. Yes.
And thank you for saying that, because if you're really present, you'll notice something different about the trees each day. Like you said, especially at this time of year, it's amazing how they change from day to day. So just being really alive and in the moment is really, it's good for the body, mind, and spirit. So
yeah, for sure. Well, yesterday I was walking the path and I realized that there was more light coming in on this one section of path, which is normally quite darkish because of the tree cover. And I all of a sudden I went, hang on, this is kind of a little bit more, oh, right. And I clicked in, but I just kept walking, but it was a different click in, right, about what and where I'm walking. And so it was kind of neat. So I understand what you're saying.
Awesome.
And so this collaborative conversation that we're having is really around this notion of legacy intention. And if I may here for everyone, legacy for me is about the useful whats that you gift others so that they can learn something from your lived experience. And for me, the useful whats are time, effort, and money. So a lot of time it's what time do you give to others that allows them to learn from you. That's sort of a legacy story. The effort that you put into it, maybe as volunteer or not volunteer, or just being present with people, that's another element. And then there is the money. There are like park benches that you can go sit on. They've got plaques on them. There's all different ways in which we can take a look at time, effort, and money. So I'd like to ask you, would you consider that motivated by nature, what it is that you're doing, is an intentional legacy for you?
Absolutely. The whole idea behind it is to get people to fall in love with nature so they respect it and protect it so that it can be a better planet for 7 generations to come. So absolutely, it is a legacy project for me.
Yeah. And how is it that people learn from you? Because I know you're not going to be walking with each one of them. So how is it that you've got they can learn something from your lived experience into your program?
So actually, so what happens in the actual challenge that I do is I do the challenge with them in my area. So I'm always learning with each of the walks that I do, and I see new things that I've never seen before. And I do the research on things that I find. And then I also, when people post different things on the platform, I dig into it a little bit deeper with them. So for example, there was someone that posted something about finding a snake skin. And there's a real symbolism with the snake skin about shedding the old and, you know, going into the new, and the snake has a whole symbolism. And it was absolutely perfect for that person to hear that information. And so all of nature has symbols and messages for us if we're just willing to slow down, look, and listen. And so I have them dive in deeper. And what a lot of the participants say is that's where the real gold of the program comes, is in the actual sharing on the platform. Because you know, you go out and you do the experience, but then when you're writing about the experience, your brain doesn't know the difference between you thinking about it and actually doing it. And you dive in deeper and find even more meaning. And with the different comments that people have to your posts, it just makes it that much more rich an experience. And it builds community on the platform with people from all over the world, but it also builds that community and the connection with nature.
Oh, for sure. And an intention being the sense of the formless, and that, oh, okay, this is, I'm going to go on the walk, I'll be open to what's taking place. And then by paying attention, you get to see things like a couple of the examples that you've used, and that broadens your awareness. It's the same kind of idea from a legacy point of view, right? There's an intention you're putting in. You placed it into your program. Others can do it in whatever it is that they're engaged with. And then as they pay attention to it, it's amazing what you see, feel, taste, smell. Thoughts about that?
It's all kind of about that mindfulness approach. So you can, when you're really, really present in the moment, what you see is absolutely incredible. Whereas, and I've had instances where this has happened to me, where I'm taking a picture of just incredible fall colors, and I have cars zooming by me, and I thought, you know what? All of them are not aware of this beauty that's right here, right in front of them, right now. They're so busy being busy, right? And so it's that old saying, you know, be a human being, not a human doing. And it's just slowing down and really connecting with nature and the beauty that's all around.
Yes. And I think for others, they'll find their own legacy projects and how they might do it. We're listening to what Susanne is sharing from her legacy intention point of view. But I think this mindfulness aspect that you just shared, I tend to use the word minding, and I do it because it's to mind, to be involved in the phenomena of using this. All right, and I point here, and I also minding it from the full extension of it. What can you just explain a little bit more for us? Is like you gave us an example of mindfulness, but what does mindfulness mean for you? How would you share that point with people?
So it's being fully aware with all of your senses to everything that's around you. What are you hearing? What are you feeling? What are you seeing? What are you smelling? Are you even touching something? Are you touching a tree? So it's really engaging your senses and being fully present in the beauty and the magic of that moment. And it's interesting too, in that bit of legacy. I also feel the word mentoring is really important. I heard someone recently describe the difference between being a coach and being a mentor. And the coach is bringing out the best in someone else. A mentor is bringing out the best in you to bring out the best in someone else. So I think that's kind of part of the legacy is the mentoring people along the way.
Yeah. And legacy certainly links to mentoring, right? And I think that the mindfulness you're talking about is being mindful about the legacy, whatever project it is that you take on, because there is an intention there. I have to share is that there is a path that's just below where I live. And when I walk it, there is a very distinctive switch from a coniferous forest into a deciduous forest and a little bit of a meadow. And just as I leave the coniferous, I touch five deciduous trees, and then the two sort of sentinels of the coniferous as I move into this new deciduous piece. So I purposely touch to make the transition as I'm walking along. So again, I understand your storyline there, and I have it for me as well. And I think it's what, if I could certainly encourage people, is the legacy that you take on, whatever it might be, and the intention you place with it. It's sort of like this walk I just said, or the mindfulness that Susanne is talking about. You have to have it for whatever your project is as well, right?
And you know what, and thank you for saying that, because each of us are unique individuals and each of us has something very unique to bring. So bring your unique gifts to the world. Don't try and copy others. You've got your own unique way of doing things and your own unique gifts. So please bring those forward. And I don't think that gets encouraged enough in our society.
Yeah. Because you chose to get into nature. So there would have been some kind of a storyline that got you into this nature component. Can you share a little bit about that?
Ooh, that's a loaded one, actually, Stephen. So I grew up on my family farm, and I realized not until later how many lessons I was learning from nature by being fully immersed in it and just through osmosis. And I had great aunts that came out for the summers and spent time on our farm, and were master gardeners. And so I learned a lot from them. My father was a teacher and a farmer and a soil and water conservationist. So I learned from him. My mom was a painter, so she captured all these amazing sunsets and sunrises. And there's one instance in particular where she was painting a sunset, and my dad said to her, "It doesn't look like that." And she said, "Come here, come with me." And he said, "Yeah, you're right." So she had that artist take on nature. So that's how I grew up in a small community with that, and went away for a while, got my university degree in phys ed and recreation and in management and marketing, and then worked in the corporate world for a while and had some wake-up calls that made me realize just how short life is. And I returned to nature with creating the Motivated by Nature, because I realized how important and how key that was, and how far I had gotten away from that myself.
So there's an example of the lived experience that you went through, the mentoring that you received as you moved through, and then have, in a sense, re-scripted your life story involving Motivated by Nature.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people who would be listening in, and or I'm going to encourage to take that reflective practice and just work through, think through, feel through what it is that you are doing in your life as you move towards your legacy project and the intention you're going to put with it. I think you would agree with me on that.
Yeah, absolutely. They actually say that a lot of people, if they look back to the early stages of their life, is, what was it that really moved them? And that's kind of your legacy project, right? Right there is looking to what really stirred your soul back then.
Yes. Mine was the concept of forced recreation.
Oh.
And I'm sort of coming around, and I went to, well, it was about forced recreation, because I love to play with words.
Yes,
And
you
that
do.
started to unfold a whole nother way of looking at things. But I also think, while you haven't said it specifically, I think there's an underlying thread of resilience here.
Absolutely.
Can you explore that for me?
Yeah, absolutely. So nature shows us so much resilience, especially when we're going through grief. And it shows us the whole cycle of life. It's right in front of our eyes. It shows us trees that have been there before we came along and are going to be there long after we leave. And so that whole cycle is shown to us when we go out. And for anyone that's dealing with grief, having a nature connection, having a nature spot to go is really, really healing, because nature doesn't judge, right? And I've heard of many psychologists who actually go out with their patients who are going through a grieving process with a dozen eggs, and they have them chuck them against a tree just to get the anger out from the grieving process. And I think too often we don't talk about grief, and it's all part of the process. And nature shows us those cycles beautifully. When you go through a place where a forest fire has decimated the area, there's going to be this beautiful pink fireweed that's sprouting up, right? Just to show that the regeneration is happening again. So resilience is everywhere in nature, from the tree that's hanging off the cliff to the dandelion that's coming up through the sidewalk cracks, the cement cracks. There's so much, there's so many lessons, again, if we are just willing to slow down, look, and listen.
So it's almost like, if you're thinking about what legacy project would I want to intend to bring for the world, actually go spend a bit of time or do your challenge, and you might metaphorically find something out there, or even literally out there, that might be oh, I think I may have a pathway here to my legacy project. So I certainly encourage you to get a hold of Susanne, and there will be links to your website and what you're doing. And I'm going to be asking Susanne if there's any handouts or other videos she wants to bring to your attention, and I'll make sure that they get put around this video as well. But I think there's something that's really important here as we move towards closure. And what that is the last words that you would like to share with people today on this video. What is it that you would like to bring to everyone's legacy intention to their lives now, to their extraordinary lives?
The phrase that comes in: for the good of all and with harm to none. So whatever it is that you intend to do, make it be for the greatest good for all involved, and think of all the aspects, not just humans. Let's think about nature, this whole world when we're doing these different projects, so that we're making sure that we can make this a better place for 7 generations to come.
Yes. And I follow that, because I talk about being for the world, being with the planet, and being from the whole is my way of expressing what you just shared. So it's great. Yeah.
Actually, there's one other thing I want to say, because
Sure.
you just tapped into it. The whole, being for the whole. Each of us are connected, and we need to remember that again. We've forgotten that. We're connected to one another, and we're connected to nature. So you know, that butterfly effect, what we do over here has consequences over here. So remembering that we are all connected and we are all one, and finding that compassion for one another is really key.
Yeah. And I think the thread, if you're picking it up, dear listeners, is this notion of the legacy intention, the legacy project that you would pick up. What is its true contribution for the world, with the planet, from the whole? And to be able to live and nurture and all of that, that is what I believe I would love to see you have. And I'm going to say that Suzanne would love to have you have that as well.
100%. 100%.
Okay. All right. So that's our time for today. And I think it would be great, maybe at some point in time in the next couple of months, is maybe come back to an update of where you are, and tap into some of the stories that you are learning from the participants in your Motivated by Nature monthly challenge. How does that sound?
That sounds fantastic. It's, if everyone is open, we can always learn more, right? There's so much to learn. And think about it, like the earth has over 4.5 billion years of experience. So we just have a wee bit of wisdom to learn from nature.
True enough. True enough. It's the notion of there is some lived experience with the planet, and we can certainly tap into it. Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, on behalf of all of those who are listening and watching in on this video, thank you very much, Suzanne, for sharing some of your thoughts, your mindfulness, and your nature, and a little bit about resilience. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Stephen. It's been wonderful. Thank you.